everyone. I'm Jared with Hypertrack. I'm the head of marketing here, and thank you for joining us. I'm happy to introduce our next speaker, who is Jean Cook of TNAA. Jean is the COO at TNA. She joined TNAA as CFO in 2016 and stepped into the COO role in 2020. She's responsible for driving operational efficiency and ensuring the company delivers on its culture, vision, and strategic plan. She brings over 30 years of experience in finance, HR, and risk management. So I think we'll be able to learn a lot from her experience, and I look forward to this session. Thanks again, Jean, for joining us, and I'll pass it over to you.
Marvelous. Good morning, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here with all of you this morning. And our topic is a lengthy one and sort of a complex one. So we have 30 minutes, so we're not going to solve it all today, but we're going to talk about the important things to think about when you at your business or your organization are trying to successfully maneuver this particular topic. And we're going to leave you at the end with some actionable things that you can take and work with. So our topic is tech that truly serves, transforming healthcare staffing for every stakeholder. There are some important components to this topic in that name of this session that we've given it. Truly serves, and we're going to talk about what that means. Transforming, which is something that we're all doing every day. Every stakeholder, who are those, right? So we're going to examine each of those as we go through, and then we're going to talk about how to make that formula work of all of those things into the picture so that we can go select, implement, and do great things with tech that truly serves. So first piece of that is, what does it mean to have tech that truly serves? Many times as companies, we're thinking about profit. From this angle, we're thinking about tech that serves. And if we serve all of our constituencies well, profit should come from that effort. So it's a little bit of a flip to think about tech that truly serves and the profit that will come from it. You can't ever forget about profit or cost of things, but it's a little bit of a flip that we wanted to have folks think about today. So what does it mean, tech that truly serves? It needs to solve genuine problems, not just perceived problems. And maybe not the problem you see a whole bunch of other people solving, because that might be a perceived problem. So there can be a moment here of keep up with the Joneses. You need to serve versus just being transaction driven, and provide tools for people to use, not just control them. There can be at the bottom of it a desire to just get a transaction done faster and easier. And that might be the service that you need to provide because you might be being too slow at something. But think about the genuine problem, not just the perceived problem. It needs to match intention, not just grab attention. Attention grabbing things are great, particularly if they are sustainable and long-term. But a lot of times an attention grabbing thing has the span of this little short amount of span. Whereas if you match some intention, you empower people, empower users versus maybe exploit them. If you are providing communication and collaboration, you will get much more out of meeting someone's intention and needs than just grabbing some attention. We talked about money is always a thing, right? So creating prosperity, and there's multiple forms of prosperity. Prosperity can make the user of the tool more profitable. It could make you more profitable. It can make more valuable use of your time, right? So easing access and eliminating barriers and aligning with purpose. depending upon who your end users and customers are, their purpose may be what's most important to them. If you're a business that's providing services to nonprofit organizations, they're worried about you helping them with their mission and purpose more than they are anything else. Aligning with the purpose of the users is part of a prosperity view. It must foster trust. It's a world of trust. I don't know if it's millennials or snowflakes or who it is, but even me as a boomer, I like to trust the businesses that I'm doing business with. So trustworthy and transparent. The old, yeah, the price is $1.99, but the shipping is $14 sort of moments don't win trust in transparency. So think about that from your tech that truly serves, and how do you truly serve those stakeholders? And that's the next piece of our equation, isn't it? Is our stakeholders. So who are our stakeholders? And you got to not just know who they are, but who they are, not just who the stakeholders are, but what are they feeling? What are they thinking? What are they needing? We'll talk a little bit more about that later. This top row is probably the list of things that you first thought of when I said stakeholders, right? We have our internal employees, we have our owners, we have our healthcare providers that are filling needs out there, we have our clients and customers. We all think of those folks first. Those are the folks we deal with every day, or at least very regularly. At one more circle out, but still very important stakeholders for us, are the patients and their families, right? We're sending healthcare providers to take care of people and their families. There are government and regulatory bodies that we have to abide by, report to, etc. There are healthcare professional organizations that we could be part of and our actions reflect on, and the communities that all these people are in, right? Here at TNAA Total Man, we have healthcare providers in all 50 states. So there's somebody in every state being helped and served in a person, and one of our employees is living in that community. So the communities that we're in. Thinking about this second row is probably not important to the everyday, and the prosperity is that top row, but it's an important group, and you can do some really great things with tech that serves and prosperity moments by thinking about that second row of stakeholders. And I would encourage all of you to think about if you have other stakeholders than this. Some have more weight than others, but all very important in our big scheme of things. So now we've talked about what does it mean to have tech that truly serves, and we've talked about who are those every stakeholders. And now we're getting into the middle of our equation or our topic. How do we take all that and do the transformative things? Because we said we're going to transforming healthcare staffing, right? Really understanding the stakeholders, what they want, what they need, what their motivations are, right? You might think they know. Peel that onion back one more layer. They say they want X. What is the motivation for that? Because Y might really be what they need versus X, right? What lends itself to automation and what doesn't? Tech is generally about automation and capability. Some stuff is human and some stuff is automation. So there are moments to consider that. You need to know yourself. And I say the real company, not the aspirational. I'm a big believer in core values and key differentiators. And not every company's core values and key differentiators are the same. And sticking to those generally works the best at a company. So while you should be aspirational in moving forward your company, trying to be something you're not may not be the answer. It may be, but it may not be. You really have to be unoffendable in this process. You have to be open-minded. You have to bring in groups and opinions and really think it through. The answer may not be the latest tech. We didn't say that we're going to transform healthcare staffing with the latest tech. How many times a day do we hear AI? AI may be the answer, but the latest tech may not be the answer. It could be something old used in a new way. It could be a strategy process or even an attitude change that flows through the tech. So you have to look at both ways. You have to look at what is the newest technology and what could it solve for us. But you also have to look at what do we need solved and is that the newest technology? Because there will be some things over here and what do we need to solve that the answer isn't the latest technology. And there will be some really great shiny bauble technologies that don't solve an issue for you, at least right now. In the middle of all these pieces of our formula is the commercial value, the functional value, and the regulatory. Commercial value, we've talked about prosperity, we've talked about making money at the end of the day. Commercial value could also be your brand. How do you transform or move forward your brand with the use of technology? Functional value many times is about efficiency. How do you make it more efficient? How do you become easier to do business with? How do you automate non-value added things? And speaking of non-value added things, regulatory, particularly here in the healthcare staffing world, we have been inundated, I think it's not too big of a word, during COVID and since then, with a myriad of new regulatory things that we all have to do. We have to do them, but they don't really add any value. They hurt us if we don't, but they don't particularly go sell something if we do. Getting those non-value added but required things automated or technologically assisted can be part of that functional value set. So we promised some actionable moments. So thinking about all those things, and I know I'm repeating myself, but let's continue to think about our three key things. We are truly serving with our tech, we are transforming, and we're going to have it work for every stakeholder. So let's talk about some actionable moments. Actionable moments are the most fun, right? We talked a little earlier about stakeholders, needs, wants, and motivations. You think you know what each of those groups, needs, wants, and motivations are. I will tell you that if you're in tune with your business, and I'm sure you are, you probably do know the large majority, the 80 to 90% of that. But don't assume you know it all, and don't assume they even truly know. Go do some research. Maybe you need to do some surveys. Maybe you need to call a few of them and talk to them. And again, this is one of those moments to be real open-minded and some creative thinking about how you solve the problems they have in a way other than the way they think they need it solved. And maybe the way they think they need it solved is the right thing to do. But you got to map out your stakeholders. Create your prioritization framework. Create your prioritization framework before you go start trying to prioritize the things. When you're in the middle of the decision, when you're in the heat of it, this, like most big and important decisions. Recency can creep in, a particular passion for a particular area, operations in my world could creep in. So it's important to have your prioritization framework or frameworks. There are multiple different ones for different kinds of situations and scenarios. Having that picked and ready to roll before you start making your decisions is really important. You'll make better decisions faster. There are multiple types of prioritization frameworks out there. This is another area where you can go do some Googling and some research. Different prioritization frameworks work best in different scenarios. Some of the prioritization frameworks you may or may not have heard of. There's the Rice method, Eisenhower matrix, value versus effort, weighted scoring. Weighted scoring falls into all of those. For speed and quick decisions, a Rice score or value versus effort can be effective when you're looking at data-driven decisions. The weighted scoring, again, can work. The Moscow or Kano methods are particularly pointed towards customer satisfaction and stakeholders. Anyway, there's a myriad of those models out there, or you can create your own. At the root of it is this formula thing we've been talking about. What's it going to take to do it? What problem does it solve? What value is it going to provide? Which stakeholders does it impact? And putting some sort of way together to weight or value each of those components so that you can come out at the end with your prioritization. If it's going to put you way ahead and it's going to be real hard to do, you may still do it because it's hard to do. If it's not that big of a move ahead and it's going to be real hard to do, that one probably falls a little further down the list. The other thing I would tell you about prioritization methods that you have to think about is there may be some things that really need to be done, and they keep getting put down to the bottom of the list because they're hard to do or the perceived value. So always in your prioritization thinking, consider those things that have been on there for a year or two and they just keep hovering in the middle. Either think harder about them to see how they might move up, or decide that they're not a thing anymore and get them off the list. It's very trying to the people who that thing is important to have it just hang in the middle and never get done. They either need to know it's going to get done or it's just not, and here's why. And it's just best for everybody to get those languishing items off the list that are never going to move up for whatever reason. Determine where value impact is attainable. This should be part of your prioritization matrix. And you may have 2 or 3 different kinds of value that you're seeking, like we talked about earlier. It could be pure profit. It could be revenue, gross margin side of profit things. It could be an efficiency and therefore an expense savings moment. It could also be putting your brand more forward. It could also be getting your name out there or getting you easier to find, which could then turn into revenue, right? So think about the different kinds of value impact. You might need more than one value impact piece of your prioritization model or piece of your prioritization formula so that you consider all the different values. I've been in prioritization setting sessions where we've just had one, what value does it provide? And some values you can put a number on pretty easily and some you can't. And you can discount the ones that are harder to put a number on when really, if you spent time thinking about it, those could be key in a brand type moment. So really consider the different types of value and how you're going to get those in your prioritization matrix. I hope that all of this different ways to think have been meaningful to you. I hope that some of these actionable moments that you can take back with you are meaningful to you as well. It's been exciting for me to share these ideas and some of the things I've run into across time. And we wanted to make sure that we had time here remaining in our session to have some discussion and some time for thank yous. And Jared will wrap up the end with some information on the remainder of the virtual conference. But I think we're ready, Jared, to open up to questions and discussions and et cetera.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a couple questions. One of them is, how do you resolve conflict in decision-making when something aligns with one stakeholder, but doesn't align with another stakeholder?
I think that is part of the weightedness, if you will, of the stakeholders. Different seasons for different stakeholders might be a way to look at it. There might be a time where your end customer seems the most annoyed with you, quite frankly, and therefore things that are going to weight more heavily to serving that group might get a few more points. It may be that you're just not having enough leads come in and you have to wait towards the candidate flow or the lead proposition. So I think there's a season of your business that will cause your different weight on your stakeholders and different weights on your values and your other parts of your prioritization too, to be more important in the different seasons of our business.
Got it. Thank you. It makes sense. Another question we have is, what are some frameworks to peel the onion to understand stakeholder motivations? Meaning, some people don't often say what they mean. Their motivations might not necessarily be clear in the feedback that they give. So how do you really get down to that core motivation?
I think specifically when it comes to technology, a lot of times, me included, I'm on a website or something and I think, wow, if they just do this way, that would have been easier. Really? Would it have? So I think the feedback that we get from people is their idea many times of the solution to whatever is motivating them or what they think the problem is. The question should be, what's that going to solve for you? What's bothering you that you think we need to do that? And sometimes the thing they suggested is the thing that will fix what's motivating them. But other times there might be another reason and another solution. And sometimes that solution is even easier. And you can offer that back and say, hey, I can solve this by doing this. And they're like, yes. So I do think it's literally peeling the onion back and ask them that next question or two. Don't just take what they think they need or they think will solve it, because all of us out here are not the tech experts or even the business experts in your business. So I think that's important to ask. So if you're thinking about a survey, make sure that if you said this, that additional peel the onion questions pop up. And that's also a real good reason to do a focus group or just some one-on-one interviews with people who you can trust to be open and unoffendable and have a great combo with.
Excellent. Thanks for that. And we have one more question. So when technology benefits operations, but it frustrates clinicians, how do you mediate that trade-off and still deliver value for both sides? Similar to some of the first question, actually, in some ways, but in terms of that clinician versus operations trade-off, how do you do that?
Yeah, and there is some rub there. Let's see, that's an open and honest question. So thank you for that, because there can be some rub there. I think this is part of what we said it means to truly serve. There's some transparency there. We sometimes have to ask clinicians for information that they don't understand why we need it. And they, quite frankly, might be a little affronted that we ask because they think it's none of our business. Yet the state of Illinois makes us report that to them once a month. So I've found that most of the time, explaining why it is we have to do it that way and saying that's the only way our system will do it isn't really the best of answers. The state of Illinois requires us to report it once a month, and or why is it that you're putting a rub on them? Also, just recognizing that you understand that's the only way our system will let us do it, and I've reported it, and we're looking at better ways, knowing that you recognize their pain moment. But that's sort of part of our prioritization view, isn't it? To make it work efficiently for us and to also make it not be detrimental to them. That's part of that puts and takes and pulls and tugs and balance that we've been talking about.
Awesome. Thanks for that insight, Jean. It's definitely a delicate balance, and I think the frame you provided is certainly helpful as product managers and people who design solutions should think about this in the field. Thanks for that, and I appreciate your time. And for everyone else, look forward to seeing you in the next session.
Thanks,
Jean.
everyone. Thanks for having me, Jared. Everybody have a great day.
Sure. Thank you.